Today I'm going to be threading on my lathe for the very first time, which means learning how to change the gears. And in the process I have to make some changes to some parts using the lathe. Welcome to another episode. I have a part coming up where I need to create an internal thread. And actually it's for right up here I need to create a nut that goes on the top here that pushes the collet out of the spindle. And that requires an internal 1mm pitch thread. So I wanted to learn how to change the gears on this machine and then learn how to do the internal threading. And as you'll see, one of the sets of parts that I got for an extra set of gears I need to be able to do threading didn't actually work correctly. I needed to modify it. So let's head to the machine and I'll show you how to change gears. This is the gear system to drive the lead screw down here. And right now I've got it in a pretty low gear. So I'm going to switch to a higher gear. There we go. Now it's easier to turn the spindle. And currently the lead screw is not engaged, but if I push this down here, it's now engaged. To be able to do metric threading, or any threading for that matter, I need to change the gears in here. This one right here, let's see, they call it a feed shift unit. And it can shift between 2 thousandths per revolution of travel on the lead screw and 5 thousandths per revolution. But to cut threads, we need to remove this. This is the chart on the inside of the cover for the gears, and it has tables that show me which gears I need to put in. I'm going to want to set it to 1mm pitch, and so that means the numbers are on the left are the outside gear, and the numbers on the right are the inside gear. And an H means a spacer. So I need to follow this and basically choose 40 for the first one, followed by 50 with a spacer, 55, 65, and then a spacer on the outside and 75 on the inside. This is what came with the lathe for adding another gear. And you can see that there's a bolt that goes into the nut. This goes through the shaft that has a key in it. And then there's this ring, and the ring has a lip on the back and is meant to go over here, but it doesn't fit. So I measured this, and this is about 8mm, and I measured the slot here, and this is about 6.3mm. So what I need to do is take this down 2mm. And I'm not sure why this is the wrong diameter. I've asked around but haven't gotten an answer yet. Let me show you this in comparison to what exists for some of the other gears. So I have some of these partly taken apart since I'm changing the gears. And you can see that this is definitely a different diameter than this is. Again, this is 6mm, an M6 screw, and this is 8mm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the lathe and use a part-off tool to turn that down to 6mm. I'm going to take out this test piece that I used after I installed the multi-fix tool holder and put this in there. Okay. Then make sure I have enough room for the cutoff tool. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I'll put it in a little bit closer. And I'll set the speed a little bit lower to, I think, I'll try 65 to begin with, because I've heard that using a parting tool at slow speeds is better. And it can always go up to 130. So that's pretty slow. And then I'll put some cutting oil on there. Okay, so touching off, and then calculating I'm going to go in a little bit and see how it goes. Okay, this is going pretty well, so I'm going to try 130 RPM and see if how that works. Okay, so I went in 20 thousandths, and I'm going to move over a little bit and try to get the other side of the slot. And then, okay, so we're 6.67 millimeters. So I need to go another roughly 20 thousandths. So I'm going to go in another 5 thousandths. First touch off again. Okay, I misread it the other time, so we're at 7.34. So I'll go in another, let me do that calculation. So I said 7.34. So I need to go 1.34 more. And so I'm dividing that by 25.4. And that gives me another 52 thousandths to go. Divided by 2 is about 25 thousandths. Okay. So I'll touch off again. Actually, I know where it is, so I'll go another 10 thousandths. And actually, rather than measuring it, okay, so that fits over now, but what I'm discovering is that the lip on here does not fit over it. So that means I need to take it back a little bit further to the other side. So let me come back in. First of all, I think I was at a total of 45. Yep. So now I'm going to move it in a little bit, and that should be plenty. Let me put some oil on there. Okay. Yep, no problem. Okay. Job done. So now I can go back to setting up the gears for threading. I've got all the gears out, so I'm ready to start setting this up. The first thing I'm going to do is to loosen this. There's a screw down here. And so I'll just loosen the screw, and that will allow me to get the gears out. And then I'm going to start with this one here, which I think is this wrench. And I'm wearing gloves just, so I don't have to clean my hands so much. All right, so this is the change box, so I forget what they called it. And I'm going to take the nut off the bottom. Okay, and then I'll set this aside. And that is going to have a 40 gear with a spacer, I believe. Looking at this again, just 40 gear. So actually, sorry, I got that wrong. The 40 gear is going to go on here. So that means I can loosen this like so. And then once it's loose enough, then this spacer or retaining ring comes out. and now the gear will just come off the top. So at this point I can line up the key with the slot right there and then just put it on. And now I've got the 40 gear in place. I can put the retaining clip or ring back on, tighten this up again. Hang on. Okay, so that gear is now in place. The next one, according to the chart, is going to be 50 on the outside with spacer on the inside. And so I'll get that set up. So here's the part that I modified. And I will put this part on that has the key. And then I will put the nut on first. So that I can put this back in here. Now I'm guessing, yeah, I'm going to need to take this off. So since I'm going to be replacing these two anyway, I'll just go ahead and take both of these off right away. So that one's a different size bolt. Okay, so okay. So I think I'm going to start with this one here and then move my way around. I don't know if that's the best way, but that's what I'm going to do. So looking at here again, the last one is a spacer on the outside and 75 on the inside. So I'll take the 75 and put that on first. And then I'll put the spacer on. Okay, so this was the bigger wrench. And I have to, right now I have to hold on to the right side of the hand wheel on the right side of the lead screw to tighten that. Okay, so that's the first one, H on the outside, 75 on the inside. The next one is 65 on the inside, which is this one right here. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, there we go. It's just kind of stiff. Okay, so this gear is being a little bit stubborn. I'm going to work on getting that off and then come back. Okay, and by the way, this is what the other bolt looks like, which is kind of interesting to see. Okay, so I said, let me put this back on. Okay, so I said 65 on the inside. Let me just double check that. Yep. Okay, I forgot to put this back on. And this is why I'm wearing gloves. You can see I'm already picking up oil. And so that's on the gloves rather than on my fingers. So I don't have to wash up afterwards, I just have to take those off. Okay, so I'm going to tighten this a little bit and then put on the 65 and let's see what happens here. And then on the other side of that was 55. So this seems like it's fairly deep. I don't want it too tight. One approach is to put a little bit of paper in there. Yeah, it's a little tight. Okay, so I'm seeing a little bit of backlash. And, you know, a little bit of backlash means that it's not too tight, so that should be okay. All right, next one in is, let's see, 1 millimeter is a spacer on the inside and then 50. So put on the spacer. Okay, now this is going to, as I said, get the 50 gear. So I'm going to tighten this a little bit first. Actually, I think I'll put this on outside and then see how it meshes. Oops. Let's try that again. Okay, and then the brand new, looks like never used retaining ring. You can see this is a two-handed operation. I think after a bit of practice and with the camera not in the way, this will become easier. That feels a little tight. Now what I need to do is engage this. So I'll loosen the screw again. And I did not get that right. I have a spacer in there where I should not have a spacer. Okay, here's the spacer that should not have been there. But I do believe it needs to go on the outside. Yes, it does. So that's better. Okay, so now this should engage, which it does. Okay, yeah, that's too tight. Okay, I ran into another problem. So if we grab the old retainer and put it on there, you can see it slides down into the hole there without any problems at all. But if I grab the new retainer, it does not. So this boss here is obviously a different diameter than on this one. So if I measure this boss, you can see it's 0.387. And if I measure this one, it's 0.399. So it's about 10 thousandths of an inch larger in diameter than the other one. And as a result, this causes binding. And so I need to turn the lip down on this. And I'm going to see if I can do that in the lathe. Okay, so let me open that up. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm basically trying to make it so it's flush to each of the teeth, which I can feel. Okay, so I'm going to grab onto it, but not too hard. And then let me see what tool I want to use. Let me check at this one. This might actually work, okay. No, that hits against the jaw, so I'm going to have to change it out. So let me pull this out, and then I'll try this tool. I'm going to change gears. Right now I'm in 65, so I'm going to go to 265. Okay, so I'm going to change the angle just a little bit. I think that's too much. Let's try that angle. See if that gives me clearance. Yep, that gives me clearance. So I'm going to back this up, and then I'm going to turn it on. Okay, I'm hitting the jaw there. So let me angle that again. Okay. So I'm just touching the face right there. Okay, so I'm going to set that to 0. And then I'm going to go in 5 thousandths. And let's see if that did it. Yep, that did it. Okay. Okay, so now that I have the groove cut and I cut the boss down on this retainer, you can see that the screw bottoms out while there's still wiggle room for the gears to slide. So this should work just fine. You can see the other ones have a wiggle room as well. So I'm going to continue assembling this, putting the gears back in, and then I'll bring it back. Okay, that's much better. Okay, I don't have that correct. Okay, turns out I had it correct. It's just that to engage and disengage, I have to turn the head the other way. And now you see it's working, so I'll put it in low gear. And that looks good. So now I'm going to cut a test thread and see how it turns out. Okay, I have this piece of aluminum that I'll use for the first test. Okay, so let's see if that turns. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so now I have to set the height of this. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to touch off. Set that to 0. With this, with metric, I think I probably have to leave it engaged. Okay, so then I'll go reverse. And I'm just playing around right now. Well, I screwed up the first one because I accidentally loosened the tool post. But if we take the M10 by 1, and, well, you can't see that, but it's meshing perfectly. If I switched the next size up, you can see it does not mesh. It's kind of hard to show. So I think I'm ready for my project, but man, is it a lot of work to change the gears on this. This was a pretty fun project, but also a lot of work to learn how to do this. It did turn out pretty well, but one thing that is clear to me is that changing the gears is a lot of work, so threading is not something I'm going to want to do a lot, unless I change to an electronic lead screw, which is something that I'm planning to do at some point in the future. Changing to an electronic lead screw means putting an encoder in here so it can sense the rotation of the spindle, and then on this side I can put a stepper motor to drive the lead screw. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you next time.